Have you ever wondered what happens when a goddess's love curdles? When adoration sours into a venom so potent it can topple princes and silence hymns? You could stop now, turn back to the light. But you won't. Tonight, the myth they buried in shame will speak. Subscribe before silence finds you. Every myth hides something it regrets. This is not the tale of Aphrodite from marble temples. This is the story they erased, the one whispered only in the ruins of Trozen, a truth so uncomfortable the Olympians themselves conspired to forget it. It speaks of a love that was not a gift but a curse, and a punishment so cruel it revealed a goddess's deepest fear. Few remember her, fewer dare retell her. Listen, close your eyes, hear the rain on cold marble, the wind whistling through the columns of a forgotten palace. Smell the ash in the olive groves, and the salt hanging heavy in the air, the scent of myrtle crushed underfoot. This is the world of Phaedra, a place where even the statues turned their eyes away from what was to come. It began not with a sacrifice, but with a vow. A young prince, Hippolytus, stood in a sacred grove and pledged his eternal virginity to Artemis. His words were a prayer, but to another they were a blasphemy, an act of such profound rejection it sealed his fate and that of everyone he touched. They sealed mirrors, but still she came. They speak of Aphrodite, the golden, the laughing, but this was her shadow, the aspect they no longer named. To speak her name in this context was to invite her gaze, to feel the chill of a love withdrawn. To say her name was to invite her shadow to fall across your own heart. Why did even gods fear her reflection? Because in it they saw their own fragility. The transgression was simple, human, and absolute. Hippolytus, son of Theseus, declared the goddess of love was the basest of all divinities. He shunned her bed, her rituals, her very essence. His purity was a rejection, a void where her power should have been. Curiosity is just hunger wearing a crown, and his hunger was for a purity that would undo him all. The only true witness was Phaedra, his stepmother. Her testimony survives only in fractured whispers, a mind broken by a vision not her own. She felt like someone remembering a future she could not change, describing a love that bloomed in her chest like a beautiful, fatal wound, a divine poison with no antidote. Aphrodite's retribution was not a thunderbolt from a clear sky. It was slower, more intimate. She poured a divine venom into Phaedra's veins, a love that was both obsession and agony, making her see the boy's face in the waves and hear his name in the wind. No one heard her scream. Only the olives bled, staining the ground with dark, bitter oil. Phaedra became the curse. She fought it, carving the symbols of Artemis into her own flesh, seeking the cold solace of the huntress, even attempting the cleansing fire of self-immolation. But the venom was a god's work. She became both victim and horror, a noble queen undone by a passion that was not her own. She became the question no god could answer. Her confession to Hippolytus was a cry for help, a desperate attempt to exorcise the demon. His reply was the final twist of the knife. "Die if you must," he said, his voice devoid of pity, "but do not stain my purity with your sickness." His words echoed long after, a curse more binding than any god's. If you still hear her name in the wind, you've already called her. This darkness lingers. It is in the sudden, inexplicable chill of a room, the withering of a myrtle plant for no reason, the dream of a love so powerful it feels like a sickness. It is the echo of a flint heart cracking, a sound like stone tearing. Even now, some say she walks when the moon hides, testing the hearts of those who dare to love too much or not at all. The Olympians could not destroy this truth, so they buried it. They rewrote Phaedra's story, painting her as a simple, lustful woman, hiding the fact that she was a pawn in a divine war of pride. They chiseled her defiance from the tablets. History itself became complicit in the silence. Erasure is the cruelest form of remembrance, a silence that screams. A clue survives in a burnt fragment of a lost play by Euripides, a version more honest than the one he dared to show. A single line remains, whispered by a chorus of shadows. The goddess does not punish with hate, but with a love that kills, a love that turns blood to gold and hearts to stone. Do not wake what sleeps beneath the laurel. If you are still listening, your heart is attuned to these forbidden frequencies. You are one of us, a listener in the dark, a keeper of the silenced truths. The stories they tried to erase find refuge in minds like yours, minds that understand the power of a shadow. Subscribe before they erase this too. Her name is Aphrodite, but the power is not in the name itself. It is in the tremble in the silence that follows. It is in the unspoken fear that the one who grants love can also turn it into a weapon of infinite pain. A fear so potent it can make a goddess tremble. Power isn't in what's spoken, it's in what trembles unspoken. She does not return in fire or storm. She returns in dreams, in whispers, in the reflection you catch in a dark window. She is the voice that asks why you are alone, or why you love the one who cannot love you back. Those who dream of her never wake the same, because some myths wait to be remembered. They wait for a mind fertile enough to host them. Why was this myth buried? Not to protect Phaedra's honor, but to protect Aphrodite's. The truth is that divine power is a fragile thing, fed by mortal belief. Hippolytus's rejection was an existential threat, a crack in the foundation of her divinity. Her vengeance was not spite, but terror. Maybe the gods didn't destroy her. Maybe they feared her. This myth is a mirror. It shows us how we create gods to explain our desires and then fear them when those desires turn destructive. We invent love, then invent punishment for its absence. We seek purity only to find it is a form of death. We invent gods to explain what we fear, and then we fear what we invented. I was a queen. I was a wife. Then I was a thought in his mind, a fire in my blood. I carved her symbols into my skin to push him out, but he was already there, a ghost, a god. My note was a lie, but also the only truth I had left. I died, loved, but not loving. I am buried, awake. The story did not end with Phaedra's death. Hippolytus was reborn as Virbius, a eunuch priest for the very goddess he worshipped, trapped in an eternal, loveless existence. The cycle of purity and punishment spins on. This is the echo of the Propoetides. Her ancestors turned to stone for their denial. Maybe you've already met her. In a dream you forgot, a vow you made, a love you feared. And Aphrodite, she won, but her victory was a hollow thing. She proved her power, but the fear of being forgotten, of being rendered powerless by a mortal's scorn, that shadow remained. She is the last shadow, the one that lingers when all other gods have departed. You can forget a name, but not its shadow. The silence is never absolute. There are other names, other erasures. The gods of Olympus built their pantheon on buried secrets. Next, we enter the house of the god who eats memories, the titan whose wrath was so great, the gods themselves learned to forget. If her name chills you still, if the echo of her poisoned love lingers in your thoughts, subscribe. Join the circle of those who listen in the dark, who guard the forgotten truths, because silence never sleeps, and neither does she.